Hi. I guess this is round two of technically what is a podcast with talking animals. And today the topic is practice. Um, the reason why we decided to choose practice is often one of the questions that is asked of those who, people like us, is how do you get to become good? And one it's practice. That's unfortunately, that's all we can really say about is practice. But most people, when they say practice, they don't talk about what that means in practice. And so, Where and I would like to talk about three specific types of practices: the warm up, which Wera is currently doing at the moment, general practice for just everyday use, and then types of practices we would like to encourage more people to do,
including ourselves.
including ourselves. Because, fun fact, just because we say that you should practice a lot and everyone should always continue to practice, doesn't mean that we necessarily do, and we may not for various reasons, but we'll get into that later. Let's talk about warm-ups first, because that's what Wera is doing. Wera is doing drawing warm-ups at the current moment, which is they're not it's I'm almost tempted to call them doodles. They're not exactly doodles because they do serve a specific function for you, don't they?
Yes. So if you go to art school, they'll always have you do stuff like this, not this specifically. And the idea is the same reason why you would warm up or do stretches or something else before you would start to do like a sports event. Like if you were going to go running, you might like do some lunges or, something to get your heart rate up. In this case, it's to wake up your brain in a way, make it,
I guess in some ways it's sort of getting you into the zone,
yeah,
preparing your brain to do a very particular task.
yeah. And you also sometimes are doing this one I'm doing right now is actually for dexterity reasons. You even if you're not like me and you don't have dexterity issues, it's always good to do little things like this where you draw a point and then you connect to the dots, because you're practicing a lot of skills when you do that, because when you are drawing you're not supposed to be using your wrist, you're supposed to be using your shoulder. And I know on
God,
time,
that sounds like piano over again.
yes, it's easier for me because I have a very large tablet, and I'll post a picture here. It's very large. I know on the smaller screens that's much harder, but you get better, straighter
Right?
lines when you use your shoulder. And that's what this kind of practice is doing. And I don't do this one enough, honestly.
Because it's boring, or is it because it's harder for you? Because I know you have dexterity as well as some fine and gross motor difficulties.
Yes, and when I do this, it's very obvious to me, and I find that distressing. But that's why I should practice more, and everyone should do these kinds of. But I'm going to move on.
That is fair. For writers, a version of this would be known as morning papers. If you're not familiar with morning papers is this idea of you write 3 pages, and by the way, you can cheat on this by choosing a smaller journal if you have never done morning papers before. And you're supposed to write exactly what comes to mind. So even if you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't know what to write, then just write, I don't know what to write. And you keep doing that until you think of something else, and then you write that thought down. It's an exercise that's supposed to, one, teach you not to censor yourself. We've all been through this. We write something and then we delete it, and we write again, or we get frustrated, even though it's supposed to be only our first draft. And so, one, it teaches you not to censor yourself. But the second thing it teaches you is to get comfortable with this idea that you will write something that will never see the light of day. And this is also the reason why it's done in journals rather than digital. Not just because you can control the size of the journal, but once you put something pen to paper, it is very permanent. You cannot take that back.
Yes. There are
Uh,
there are actually drawing warm-ups that are like that, that they will have you do in digital classes where they'll hand out, because a lot of digital artists don't carry paper, which I never had that problem. I always have a sketchbook with me. even back then in art school. Um, but what they'll do, and then you have a marker, and what is on the paper you have to use no matter what. That's another thing that you can try using if you are someone who does a lot of fine detail work, get a big fat marker, and then you have to draw with that and do whatever. But nobody ever has to see it, and that's the good thing about it. Nobody has to see your shame.
Yes, and morning papers doesn't have to be in the morning. I think it's called morning papers because the writer came up with this particular exercise. Generally, is like a professional writer, so that meant that he had time to do that first thing in the morning. So he did that before any of his other writing work. If you want something a bit more structured, but still forcing you to just simply write, an older exercise that I think I was taught back in high school is you write about an aspect of your day, like you're narrating it, essentially. And the reason why that one will work is because, well, you're always doing something at any given point in the day. And if you are forced to narrate it like you are your own MC, you don't have to. It's like the reason why we often write fan fiction for entertainment is you don't have to think very much about the details because the details already exist.
Yeah, and and we'll get into practice a little bit more with fan art later, but that was something I was going to talk about too, because then you don't have to worry about character design.
Oh, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. I know to some people that may also seem daunting because some people may say they don't have really anything going on in their life. I do recommend you write about your life because one of the other things it will teach you as a writer is to notice things more about your life. Everyone actually has a lot more on their brain and a lot more happening in their life. It's just, again, we tend to censor ourselves, so we don't really talk about it. And then I think, or maybe it's just my ADHD talking, but we tend to forget then that things do happen in our lives. And there are things, even very small things that you can notice that you may not actually tell someone, but then you would, commit it to writing or on paper or something like that.
Yeah, actually, another really good something that was warm up, and this is more popular with artists on Blue Sky that I've seen recently, is people will draw things that they witnessed throughout their day, little notes and things like that, like parents with their children a lot, or there's one that I always think of where it was the artist trying to convey the very, very big man and his very, very small son, and the fact that the man was so big he and the son couldn't hold hands, so he had to hold him by his hood. I'm gonna try to find it. It was so funny.
That is adorable. Yeah, like I find in everyday life, sometimes I go out and I'll see something, but it's such a small thing that I unfortunately forget it. I've tried to make a point to take a tiny journal with me, but sometimes, and that is definitely the ADHD talking, I will forget to actually write in it when I should, which is highly unfortunate.
Yes.
That being said, for writers, if you do, have work outside in the community, if you're doing a lot of things, one things you can do is take what are known as field note journals. Field note journals are journals that are about the size of a passport. They're soft covered. They're not a huge amount of pages, but they're easily to fit in a purse or a backpack or even the front of a jacket since we're going into winter months. And you take a pen with you, and then that way, if you have time, if you're taking public transit, you can jot a few things down of what you're noticing around you. Right then there. It's also a good way to, if you have a thought that struck you or something you want to write about later, you can note it in there. I use passport-sized journals. They're not field notes. They're the more fancy ones because I am a weirdo sometimes. But I do carry those with me. I find that actually particularly useful.
Yes, for any artists out there, you do not have to carry a sketchbook. You can just carry a pad of sticky note. If you're like, oh, well, what if I draw something really cool? Yeah, then you can just transfer it to something else. There are lots of ways to transfer drawings, especially if you are traditional. It is possible, I swear. And it's actually, and you get to keep your original, especially these days. But also, if you're just posting those on your little post-it notes, those are extremely charming. People love that. Never be afraid to show those. But on the other hand, you don't have to. Um, I always recommend that. I have those at work, and then I never remember to bring them home.
And that being said, there are field notes that have better paper in them, because some field notes are meant to use for fountain and fine liners. So if you have the money to splurge and you would rather use a notebook, there are notebooks that do can take something a bit more heavy ink wise. Another other option that's much thinner. They're sometimes a bit bigger than a passport size, but I've seen this from one gentleman. There's something called an accordion journal. And it is what it says on the tin. It opens up like an accordion. And essentially, what this guy did, because he traveled a lot with his wife, is he used watercolor. So there's actually watercolor grade uh, accordion notebooks because they don't have a lot of pages. Essentially, you draw on one side, like you open it up like a normal journal, and you draw on that side. But then you can flip the journal around, and then you have paper on the other side.
Yeah.
That is a very neat one. They're not particularly that thick, so they're not that heavy, and they're far more. They travel easier as well. If you're the type of person who also goes out to sketch, real life things, that may be an option as well.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about going out into the community or at least outside or outside of your comfort zone to when we talk about practice as well.
That is fair. Are there other types of warm ups? I noticed it looks like cloth, but I do know exactly what you're doing with that.
There are some of them I'm extremely bad at
Because you don't do them enough?
because I don't do them enough. Some of them I was extremely bad at in school, and it was embarrassing. So, but you can always look up what other artists are doing with their warm ups. I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, this was a warm up." It's like, no, that's the first drawing you did. That's not really a warm up.
That's not really warm up. And I mean, if you're talking about warm up practice, another one, and I know that someone who was encouraging artists to um, practice their shapes is essentially pick something out in your environment and draw it in shapes,
Yes, that's another
so you
thing.
can get more practice in that.
Yes. Like this too, like what I just did. This you could make this into cloth. You could make this into intestines. You could make this into anything because everything is made up of smaller shape. You just have to figure out what those are. So
Yes.
just gonna.
Yeah. That is one thing. If you want a really short writing exercise, is pick a thing, pick a pick a thing or pick an environment. Um, you could pick a person, just make sure that person doesn't know you're actually doing that. And 5 minutes, 5 minutes just to describe the thing you're seeing. Many of us don't do enough description exercises, myself included, because I forget constantly. Another fun exercise to do is if you ever find yourself in an interesting room, describe it in such a way that if someone is just reading it, they can imagine what that room looks like. Which, by the way, the hint is start big on your descriptions. Start with the big generalized pieces first and then narrow it down to the specific. That was something a lot of us had to learn after we messed up the first time on that particular writing exercise.
That is so. It's so funny how teachers do things because that's also how it is for drawing too. You always start big. You start with the biggest blocks, and then you kind of whittle away at it until you get to the detail. That's so funny, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we were asked to describe our bedrooms during the summer writing course. And it was really, and the idea was you would give that to someone else, and then someone else would sketch, essentially sketch, like kind of make a room blueprint of sorts of what your room was like. And, you could tell kind of how accurate you were by what your partner drew in the end.
Oh, that's a cool. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, the summer writing course was probably the best writing course I had ever taken, which was hilarious because I took that course because I failed algebra. And I was told by my parents never to take it again.
Ugh,
It is a bad sign when your Chinese parents tells you not to take algebra again.
Hey, fellow Americans, did you know that Canadians don't have to take college algebra to get their degree? Yeah, I know.
That's gotta be so annoying.
Oh my god.
We also don't need tests to get into our college.
They don't have to
We don't have a major test. It is based off of our university level high school courses. So if you want to get into a particular program, you have to take particular courses. So I had to take 2 humanities and my English, my university level English in high school. And then the rest of it was just whatever the top, because I think it was 8 courses in total that makes up your average, 6 or 8. And then the rest of it was just whatever was my highest, which, fun fact, was my physics. Because at one point I thought I was going to be a computer programmer, so that was the reason why I took algebra. I took algebra, calculus, physics, because I thought I was going to do computer programming, because I was trying to be a good Asian daughter.
It's very funny doing programming, because you would hate it.
I probably would hate it. One sense, it's like a puzzle, and I like puzzles, but I'm also I don't have the brain space, on the other hand, to just do that. But now you know why I knew a lot of math when I first met you, despite being a literature major.
Yeah.
That is the reason why.
Yes. Got me through high school. Yeah, that's why you should always make friends with lots of different kinds of people.
Oh yeah, we're 8 years apart. She is the same age as my little sister.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, there's probably some teenager out there going, "Oh, that's bad."
No, and who was the one who made you do your homework? Which was hilarious.
Yeah, my mom loved her because I would be like, "Card won't play with me on the MMO or whatever until I do my homework." And my mom's like, "Oh, I love her."
Oh God, it was so funny. But anyways, yeah, those were the type of, they can be, writing's a bit weird because they can be both used for both warm-ups and general practice. I know for writers it's a bit weird, this idea of doing warm-ups at all, but I do encourage at least do a bit of writing before you start on whatever project you do, just to get, especially if your job is writing in a completely different style. Says the person who's an administrator, so all I do is business style writing for work. And that is very different from something like Chimera Academy, where it's all narrative fiction. It's not even narrative prose fiction, because I write scripts for a comic.
Yes.
They're completely 2 different skill sets. But anyways, yeah, I know it sounds a bit weird to do that. But since we're on that conversation, do you have, by the way, before I continue, do you have any other drawing warm-ups you want to talk about?
So, are you trying to get me to do the one I hate?
We can save that for the last part.
Okay.
Okay. So, since we've gone through all the warm-ups, now would be probably a good segue into this conversation, especially for writers. Pardon me. When we talk about general practice, Wera and I, the thing we want people to understand is, if you have a very large project that you're always working on and off, that does not count as practice. We always make the recommendation, go work on something that is not your long-term project.
Yeah.
Don't let your long-term project be the only thing you ever work on. for a few reasons. One, because it will, I won't say it completely prevents writer's block, but it will prevent you from burning out
Yeah.
too badly on it. That's thing number one. Thing number two is when you work on a particular project, you're working with particular skill sets constantly. And doing other types of things allows you to practice in other types of ways. And so for writing, well, yes, it's not particularly common for us to use warm up exercises before we start getting into a big project. I do recommend you do spend a bit of time every day, or at least try to spend a bit of time every day, writing something that is not your big project, especially if you're not doing your big project every day, then at least you're still writing a bit every day.
Yeah, like if you're waiting for your draw artist friend to finish the chapter you started a year and a half ago.
I will point out that I have a pile of character sheets to finish, and I could always just script something else. I mean, it'll probably terrify you if I script something else, but I could always script something else.
It would give me something else to look at.
This is true. I already script something for I already scripted the classroom one though,
Yeah.
last 2 months ago. But I do, yes. So I also do recommend you practice something every day. Fun fact about Chimera Academy, if Wera had asked me to do Chimera Academy over a year previous to when she actually asked me, I would have probably have said no. Before, about a year before I had started, a year and a half ish before I started Chimera Academy, I had started on Tumblr the daily writer blog that I currently still do. And I started one because union agreements meant that where I worked would close for 2 weeks instead of us trying to boot our butts out early during the summer. So we actually got a long holiday, which was something I never had before. So I had time to kill. But the other thing was at that point I had started, I had been out of university for about 5, 6 years at that point, probably closer to 7. And I had not written anything other than business writing for my work and for about 5 years. I was incredibly out of practice. Like, yes, I wrote every single day, but I wrote for business reasons, and that is a different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to relearn how to write, essentially, which was the point of having a blog that forced me to write every single day. Or at least, you try to write every single day.
She's almost at 1,000 days. FYI.
And that doesn't include all the other weird things I've started to write for.
Yeah, if you count all that stuff that she's let me read and the stuff she hasn't let me read yet, she's probably well over 1,000.
Yeah. I guess this is part where Wera and I have to also prefix our conversation about practice to also explain we like to do this stuff as a hobby.
Yes.
Like this idea of practice to us isn't really practice. Unless it's the stuff that we don't do that often, and that is definitely practice.
Yeah.
But what we do on a regular basis, especially in generalized practicing the things we do outside of Chimera Academy, we enjoy doing that. We enjoy it actually quite a bit. And so it doesn't really feel like as much work as I think it may to other people to do the same thing. But there are ways you can make practice enjoyable, and this is a very good segue because where I hinted at this, fan art.
Yes. Okay, so I have a whole thing about fan art, and it's something that does get talked about occasionally when some rube comes in and goes, "Why are you doing fan art instead of your own original work?" Well, there are lots of reasons to. One, because you enjoy it, but it's also an absolutely great way of trying out new techniques without having to worry about everything else. Like if I want to draw Sanji and I want to do it in a new style, I already know what Sanji looks like. I have a bazillion figures. I don't have to worry about it. I know what he would be doing. I know what he would do in any situation because I've read the manga, I've watched the anime, and watched the live action. So that it's an absolutely great way to practice new things, and I think the same is true of fan fiction too. So
Yeah, being able to write fan fiction releases a lot of mental load because you're not making your own character, so you can just focus on very particular aspects of writing. I know that may sound very strange to some people, but there's some very interesting. There's like one writer who writes in such a way where the description is less about how the environment looks and more like the vibe the environment is giving. And they would not be able to do that if it wasn't fan fiction, because at least for the reader is, you assume, is also a fan of the work. So you don't have to really focus on the environment. Reader knows exactly the location you're talking about, and then you can just focus on how to describe the vibe of the environment. It is a very flowy style of writing that I think most would not want to touch with a 10-foot pole unless there was something else doing the heavy lifting for them.
yes, cheated a little bit there.
On the egg.
Yeah, it looks like an egg. I hate this one. I'm so bad at it.
Oh, is this the one where you make random shapes and then you have to find images within those shapes?
Yeah, oh, I'm so bad at this. This is going to be really embarrassing.
That one is a stingray.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking too. This looks like a bao bun, maybe like a bao bun. Yum yum.
It does.
Looks like a bao bun. That's not what a bao bun looks like, but maybe more like you squeeze, she squeeze, she squeeze. There we go. And this one looks like a hippie stink.
A hippie stingray. Oh, that is adorable. Um, that being said, there are a few writing challenges, like kind of what Ware's doing. A fun one I would do if I didn't have a lot of time on my hands, because I keep getting sick. A fun one that I would do are drabbles. And just to specify, when I say drabble, we're talking 100 words exactly. So the idea behind this particular writing exercise is you describe a moment in time, but you do it within exactly 100 words. This forces you to be very conservative in both the kind of slice of life you're doing, so it has to be something very, very, very specific. And then it forces you to be conservative with your words to make within that 100-word mark.
There are drawing exercises and also practices of that as well, where you're not allowed to lift your pencil, which I think is similar. That is actually the way that I was taught to do any kind of still life or life drawings, that you just stare at it and then you just kind of draw over here, which you can't see because I'm a raccoon and I don't, yeah. But, but yeah, and then you just kind of, but you do not lift your pencil. And anytime that you saw me, anytime here drawing anything, like when I was doing those shapes earlier, I was actually doing that. Like when I did this, like these,
Yeah.
I was not so the pin on that one though, I think the pin pressure may have looked like I was, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But that's another thing, and I think it's very similar. Yep, sorry. Continue.
No, that is a great one. I imagine then it forces you to consider first where you're going next and then having to commit to it.
Exactly. Another great one to practice using your shoulder. And also just being confident in what you're doing. And like, I feel like a lot of people are very precious about every line that they do. I know I was when I first started, when I first went to art school. And my professor made me do like a complete hour of drawing and then said, now erase it.
Oh my god!
Well, because I was one of the ones that was very precious with it. I had to learn to not be precious.
Yeah, I remember what you were like in college.
Yeah. You have to have those.
Yeah. I'm always big on description exercises. When some description exercises, I sometimes it's not even something that happened during my day. It's something that I'm very familiar with. I think one of my description exercises was about hot pot, which
Oh, and
sounds strange, but I will point out it is right now really cold, and we had a lot of snow recently. Also, because hot pot is something that's very familiar with me, I recognize it may not be familiar to all my readers. So I did a description exercise of hot pot. I think that was way in the beginning. That's almost 2 years old now, that particular one.
yeah, I remember that one. I liked it. It made me want hot.
Yeah.
It made me want hot. It took me.
Hot pot is great.
Yeah, it took me a long time to convince my family to go with me, but you know.
Fair enough. I think the other one was an outing to an ice cream shop on like a summer's day that was just warm but not swelteringly hot. And so the challenge was to describe the weather exactly, like how I felt in that weather on a day to have ice cream. Yeah, there's a lot you can do to describe something. And again, it's this idea you pick something that you already know, something that already exists. So it's doing a lot of the mental load for you. You also don't have to. You also don't have to do any of that. If you do want to do something more from scratch. Now, I have not done this yet. I am planning to do this next year, and that is roleplay journaling. is the writing goal next year? Oh God,
Okay,
like I don't already.
explain that one to me.
So there's a bunch of game books that exist out there where the way it works is, and they're not particularly that big. I mean, some of them are, but there are a lot of smaller ones. And the way it works is it's often using a deck of cards, and I believe at least one six-sided dice at the most basic level. And your deck of cards almost act like a deck of tarot cards, essentially. You're using that for the generation. The rules will vary from journal to journal, but essentially it acts like a journaling prompt. It is essentially as hard. That's what it is a journaling prompt. So like there's one called Journey Alone, which right now there are no hard copies that exist. I may have to actually just give in and get the digital version. And it comes with 3 ones where it's exploring a fantasy world, exploring a galaxy, and I forgot what the third exploration is. And depending on what you pull, then you write. So it acts like a writing prompt, but you're supposed to be doing it. It's something you can do for like an hour or so in a day. A more complex one is A Year in Kuriko, which is very heavily inspired by Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh.
So this one is you actually have to make a character. There's an entire guide in that book for it. And your character has moved and will spend a year in Kuriko, like Kiki, and try to find themselves and choose a profession and all that. And theirs is a bit more complex, where you make decisions, and you depending on the outcome of, they're actually using this is a system that uses something almost similar to a Jenga tower, or I think it's a dice that's used almost similar to a Jenga tower. And if you have to stack a certain amount of dice, and if it falls over, then you've failed, and you have to write that failure.
Oh, interesting.
And during each cycle, apparently, you can pull cards in which you would pull NPCs that you will meet. However, apparently, if you pull them a certain amount of times, that essentially is seeing the closing of their arc, and then you have to say goodbye to them, and you would not be able to pull them again. So it's also generating this idea of you meet people in your life, and that those people will leave. And then every once in a while, you're writing letters home to your mentor. And depending on how your character writes them, they may be truthful, they may not. They may bend the truth a bit. That one is very fascinating. I'm told it is very flexible in how it works. But that one feels like a much larger commitment than I am ready to do, so I would rather do something smaller, which is why I was thinking about Journey Alone. There's another one I think about exploring a house that you own and all the things that are within it is another one.
That sounds fun. I remember you showed me the
It,
Kiki one, I believe.
yeah, yeah. So I want to actually do those type of role plays because one, I think they're fun, and two, I do like journaling. I do like actually writing things by hand. If you are someone, by the way, who only writes by typing, I actually do make the recommendation just on occasion to write something by hand, because writing something by hand forces you to slow down a bit and forces you to think a bit more. But yeah, writing doesn't have to necessarily, writing practice or writing something that's not your major project doesn't have to be something big or major. It can just be something fun. It can be fan fiction that you've been meaning to write. It can be maybe you read something that you would like to try your hand at that genre. By the way, if you want to write a short story, if you want to write something and not end up with a several chapter monstrosity, which I hear is a very common problem, you know how you write a short story? You focus on a slice of life.
I don't know how to do that. I know how to do one paragraph or pages.
Pages is fine. It's when you start writing things in chapters. Um, One of my writing teachers had told me that is you are essentially writing narrowed down to a slice of life, a moment in time. And if it looks like it's going to go beyond, like if you have to jump forward in time, if days pass, you are writing something that's chaptered. You are not writing a short.
Yes.
So that's one way to keep things short if you're having issues in writing short stories. Write, just think about a moment in time and write that instead. And you can do that with fan fiction. You can do that with your own life, which may be potentially easier because again, we're trying to lift the mental load as much as humanly possible. If you would want something a bit more challenging, yes, a journal roleplay is certainly it. I do keep in my bookmarks saved all those writing prompts from Tumblr that I've only done a few of them. I've not gotten around to doing more than that. But I had done like I think 3 so far, very early on.
Yeah.
If that doesn't feel over intimidating, you could maybe do that, though that does take a bit more mental load. If you're just don't have a lot of time, I just recommend doing something that doesn't have a lot of mental load. So real life, your life or fan fiction is a good place to start. But you do want a bit of a more challenge. Yeah, journaling, solo journaling role plays are a fascinating genre I really want to get into. Writing prompts, I probably should at least try to write 1 or 2 more writing prompts next year because there's some really nice ones that are very fascinating, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
Like everything else. And also, by the way, going back to this idea, be comfortable of writing something that'll never see the light of day. If you like fan fiction and you like daydreaming of yourself in other shows, write something very indulgent. No one else has to read it.
No.
Except maybe your raccoon friend
Yes.
who shares the same brain cell.
Yeah, I will also say, like, I know that there is a among millennials, there is a real disdain for any kind of self-insert work. But I think it's healthy, and I do like that the younger generations are getting back into it. Hey, if you ever want me to draw your self-insert, hit me up. I'll do it for a small fee. I think that is so funny. Let me draw your self-insert. Let me draw the making out with law.
I am surprised our generation has disdain because I think our generation did that a lot. Or is it because it because we did it a lot? Is that the reason why?
It's because we did it a lot. It became cringe.
I think it's fun.
I think it's super fun. I'm embarrassed about it, though. I mean, I will admit that, but
I mean, let me be clear. Like I said, there's things I have written that will only be seen by my raccoon partner in crime. I would not actually put that out into the world, but I enjoy the act of writing it. Of course, I will also point out my flavor of ADHD is maladaptive daydreaming. Sometimes writing it helps me a great deal. to not take over my brain. And then sometimes I forget to like go pee for 3 hours.
Yeah. Same. If yeah. Yeah. For me, if I
She
start
does this.
writing it, I stop. I'll work on it immediately.
Oh, I feel that. I feel that so badly. But yeah, wherein I have a lot of other like project is not the right word. They're essentially our writing hobbies on top of the fact that we do Chimera just for shits and giggles. Well, actually, no, I'm going to save that for later. We do have a lot of other writing hobbies, like where it says I write a lot more than just my daily blog. I am a huge fan of Infinity Nikki, and I like to take pictures. And instead of just posting pictures, I will purposely write what I see and how I came about and what fascinated me to make me take that picture. I also do journal decorating as well, and sometimes I will write about my process or what my thoughts were during a setup. That is more nonfiction writing than anything else. And then yeah, I do write fan fiction. I write self-insert fan fiction because it sometimes helps my brain matter to not run away with itself too
Yes.
much.
Yes. I am so glad that you mentioned the nonfiction, because I'm going to jump off that to talk about the artist's equivalent, basically, which is life drawing. Now, I'm not doing life drawing right now, but it is so super important that you, as an artist, draw things that aren't just what your project is about. Like that's what Kara keeps saying. It is so important for you to, if you are primarily a digital artist, it is so important for you to do traditional work, because again, it's going to because when you do traditional, you can't be precious. You have to live with every mark. You have to be bold, and you have to just live with your quote unquote mistakes, even though 9 times out of 10 nobody else is gonna see it, and if they do see it, they're gonna be like, oh, look at that, that's wonderful, because people think traditional work is charming no matter what you do. i have
Yes.
I have a painting out there of a turtle I did when I was 19, and anytime my mother talks about me doing art, she brings out that thing. I hate that painting. It's not a painting, it's actually an underpainting. It was supposed to be a realistic turtle. I
Oh
freaking
God, that sounds like a sketch that my sister had done
Oh yeah.
of of a lady, I believe a lady holding a baby. I don't think it was religious, though it could easily be mistaken. I think for Mary, but it was a very pretty, and it's just a pencil sketch. It is framed in my parents' place.
Oh yeah. My mother,
I've never asked my sister how she felt about that, and I'm almost afraid to ask now.
yeah, like my mother was telling I was telling my mother the other day I was going to get rid of a lot of my old artwork because it's cluttering the house. And she goes, "Don't turtle." And I'm like, "What? That turtle is almost older than my brother." My brother is in high school. Let me throw the
Yeah,
turtle away. And she said, "No,
yeah,
I'm
I believe
clearing
that.
off the walls for that turtle."
Yeah, I believe that sketch I talked about was from when my sister was in high school. That tells you how old it is. It is older than your brother, I believe.
Yeah, it's definitely older than my brother. I was a senior in high school. Um, but yeah, he would have been, if I was 19, he may have been 2. He may have been, but still.
Still, horrified, I know. But since you mention it, we might as well go to what I would. Again, this actually has a wonderful disclaimer attached, and this is the disclaimer. If you haven't already guessed by some of the stuff we talked about, is we encourage you to do this. Does that mean we've actually do this ourselves? No. Should we do it? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
There is a bunch of exercises or practice that Wera and I don't do for our respective arts, or we don't do as often for a variety of reasons. And we really probably should do it more
Yeah.
than we actually do.
Yeah.
So Wera was talking about traditional, doing traditional mediums.
Yes.
And
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, doing traditional mediums. A writer's version of that is to essentially write in other styles. There's a reason why writing nonfiction is one of the few practices I actually do religiously continue to do. And not just any nonfiction. The thing about the Nikki and the journal, and I do this, I also on my daily blog, also sometimes when I play video games, I will, once I finish a game, I will start writing about it and how it made me felt and what I thought about it, almost like a review style. Not quite an essay, but more like an article of sorts, explain what it is and what I took away from it. And that I feel is important because that is a different type of writing style than most people do. Most people who are writers, like the kind that do Chimera Academy, are fiction writers.
Yeah.
We don't normally write nonfiction that often. We certainly don't write nonfiction that is meant to convince someone of an opinion. We don't normally do that, and we should do more of it. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Yes. Or at least you kind of know where they may be falling flat. Sometimes I read other opinions and I sort of stop. It's like, I kind of get where you're going from, but you're not quite making yourself clear. Another type of writing you may want to do that I definitely know that people don't practice enough because sometimes my managers write things in a particular way that makes me want to sit down with them is business writing. Business writing is, and this is the reason why I had to practice writing before I even would be comfortable to do Chimera Academy, is my work requires me to do business writing. Business writing is very formulaic. It is also has a bunch of rules to ensure that the person you're writing to isn't going to misunderstand you. So I'm not allowed to use jargon. I'm not allowed to use sayings. I have to keep the language simple. I need to give the bad news first and then give the resolution at the end, because at the end is when people are going to remember the most.
Mm-hmm.
I have, unfortunately, because of my other coworkers, have unfortunately fallen out of this habit, and I have to rein myself in. You're not actually supposed to use the pronoun you in business writing because it sounds too aggressive.
Yes.
Most people do not know that. I am well aware that many of my coworkers do not know that, and it drives me a bit batty.
Look, I drew your kitty.
I know, she's adorable. But yeah, practice business writing as well. Learn how to break bad news and try to soften the blow. That's actually a very useful skill, by the way.
Yes. Yes. So that one, okay, so I've already mentioned it, but I'm gonna reiterate it for artists because we need, most of us artists need things beaten into our heads. If you are doing one type of art, if you are doing one type of thing, if you're just a comic writer, which is who I imagine is mostly watching this video, you've gotta try other things. You gotta take a thing. You gotta try watercolor. You gotta gouache. You gotta try sculpt. Because here's the thing, and it's something that you learn as an adult. Everything you do is in of itself a learning, is a lesson. Everything that you do is something that you can take.
Yes. Yeah. Fun fact, I actually, before I did Chimera Academy, I actually didn't really do comic scripts. I had done adaptations for Wera back when I was in university, but those were just for shits and giggles, more than anything else. I had never written a larger project, especially one that I had designed from beginning to end, for a comic. This is something I had to learn. And writing a script for a comic. Now, I had been taught how to do scripts. It's the reason why I started in prose and then do the script, because that was something I was taught in writing class. But writing class was with the idea that it was a movie script or a TV show script. It was not meant for comics.
No. No, we tried that.
No, I had to adjust my writing a lot. I had to learn quite a bit in order to learn how to turn something I've written into a script. Also, fun fact, as I've written more, because I still write in prose before I write in script, but I now write in prose. If I'm writing for Chimera Academy, I write in prose in such a way that I know that I'll have an easier time of turning it into a script. So there's just certain things I leave out or I just won't do at all.
Yeah.
And that has taken me a while. So this is actually Chimera is my learning opportunity, despite the fact it is my big project. It well, for both of us, it was definitely a chance for us to learn. Even though it's something we've always wanted to do, it does not mean it was something within our wheelhouse when we first started.
No, absolutely not. I am going to take a second here, and I'm going to pull up the first page of Chimera, and then I'm going to pull up the. So this is going to take me
Yeah, absolutely.
because I want to show the difference.
The difference, yeah.
And it's pretty stark, at least in my view. Maybe other people don't feel the same, but
I know if you look at my scripts, it's definitely a huge change.
would you be comfortable showing those, or would you not?
Oh, yeah, sure. I don't mind showing those scripts.
Do.
So yeah, that's the first page of Chimera Academy, which was over 2 years now.
Yeah, okay, 1 second.
Yeah.
It's
No, that's fine. I should also point out at the time we had started Chimera Academy, I was only doing the daily writer's blog, and Wera had done a few other things, but not a lot.
yeah.
And in the time in between Chimera Academy starting, of course, I have the two other blogs. I do write stories in my off time just for myself and Wera. Wera has done a bunch of fan art. Had for a while when there was that pet site that is actually, I think it's still running. It hasn't run out of money quite yet.
Yeah.
But you had done a bunch of pet drawings for people as well.
Yes.
And I know more recently on Tumblr you were doing like not quite quick sketches, but you had open to draw people's OCs just so you got practice and a chance to try other things. And you also did Art Attack twice.
Yes.
As
fun.
well.
I love Art Fight. Everyone
Yeah.
should do Art Fight. Everyone.
Yeah, so you've done a lot in between these two pages of being done.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is the other thing.
I really like how Midnight looks because his skin glows, but this fits more with what we're doing nowadays.
I mean, it's still technically the same art style. It's just Midnight is Midnight.
Yeah, Midnight, you can't. Midnight is so beautiful, you can't not make him beautiful. Like, it's like a curse. But yeah.
And he probably knows it.
Yeah, and he doesn't. But yeah, there's like a. But I would also like you to see the different. I also wanted to pull up this page with him as well, with Midnight.
Because the other thing is the paneling. Now,
Yes.
part of the issue with the first page and the first chapter in general is also scripting issue as much of it is a paneling and design issue. Like for both of us, this was our first attempt to do something like this. I don't mind the twins script, and I like Dorothea's the best. I would goddamn rewrite Kale's introduction script.
Yes.
If I could.
If I had to choose between redoing the twins, Thea, or Kale's, I would want us to redo Kale's because I feel that Kale's is the weakest drawing wise, especially. It does not get across anything we wanted to get across. Because like people genuinely think Kale's a bad guy. They think he's a villain. And
Kale is an angsty teenager with
yeah, and like they also think his dad is bad, and I'm like, no, that wasn't what I wanted to get across at all. I just wanted to get across that they were separated, and Kale was doing it on purpose.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem was Kale was back when I didn't really know how to keep chapters within a single area.
Yeah.
Like, yes, club fair, you're moving around a lot, but you're still in the club fair, and that had been done on purpose, and I've gotten a lot better about that. Kale actually had far more transitions than he had any right. Even though technically I say this, and technically he only has one area transition. I still, looking back on it, that is one area transition, one too many.
Yeah, like I see the vision. I if I was gonna redo that, I would actually view him